Hi guys and gals, thanks for stopping in and watching Canadian Cutting Edge. We've got Fixed Blade Friday today, and we're looking at a knife from Y-Start. HKQ004, okay, I forget the number. I'll put it on the screen right here. The number isn't on the blade, but it does say Y-Start right there on the blade. D2 steel, all belly, all the time. Check that out. This is not a bushcrafter's knife. This is more of a survival self-defense style knife. And G10 handle scales, and you can get them in orange or in black. Stonewash blade. If you're very fortunate, you might be able to find it in a black wash. Right now, you can find it in the orange and the black with the stonewash, and I'll have links in the description below. I bought mine at DHgate. But it turns out that right now it's less expensive at AliExpress, and I will have links for both in the description below. I do not have any arrangements or deals with DHgate or AliExpress. I don't make any referrals off of them. You just make your choice. You buy from whomever you feel like you want to buy through, if you like one of those vendors better than the other, or if you want the lowest price. It's not inexpensive. I paid $39.02 US for this knife. Free shipping. I really like how this handle shape fills the palm of the hand with this back right there. So if you are interested in this fixed blade knife with a Kydex sheath, stick around for the full review coming at you. Hi guys, I have just a very brief little commercial announcement. I've been a GearBest fan since long before they supported my channel, and they asked me to announce a sale coming up. June 12th, their big summer sale is happening, so I'll have a link for that in the description below the video. You can go to it now and check out what the sale is going to be. There's also going to be a link for a new UK store, so if you live in the UK, and a brand new USA store. So if you're an American, you can get fast shipping from GearBest now. They don't have everything in stock at their USA store yet, but they've got a bunch of items that you can take a look at there and check out their store. Now back to our regularly scheduled programming. I always fill out a worksheet like this where I put all the details about the knife on there and some notes. Yes, that's my messy handwriting. And that's what I use to keep myself mostly on track for my videos. A knife by Y-Start, model HKQ001. So the first one in the HKQ series. We have no idea who the designer is. D2 steel, Rockwell hardness around 60. Kydex on the sheath, and that includes the belt loop. And it even says Y-Start right there on the belt loop. It's a good sign that it's definitely a Y-Start knife. And it says Y-Start on the blade right there. G10 handle scales. And the color of these, I'm not sure if you have these in other countries, but do you have the Creamscicle? It's a popsicle. It's an orange popsicle that's white on the inside and creamy. I grew up with having creamsicles around. I never really liked the flavor of them, but this G10 here is reminding me very much of the color of the Creamscicle. So especially those of you in Canada who know what I'm talking about, that's the color of this G10, and I'm digging it big time. The Kydex is black, of course, and what we've got is a drop point blade right here. There's a swedge at the top here, and then I'm calling this a full flat grind because it, 3/4 or more of the knife is a full flat, and then it goes smaller. So, that's the widest point is at the top of the flatness. You might call it a saber grind. You might call it a 3/4 full flat or a 3/4 flat. Call it whatever you want. There's not always perfect names for all these things, but the only flat spot is right there where it says Y-Start. And on the little bit of the ricasso that you see here, and there's your plunge area there. We've got a nice sharpness choil and a little bit of a finger guard. Some gentle jimping at the back here, and that jimping looks really good. And it's, yeah, gentle jimping. It's not that hard at all. And we've got this really cool little, well, I don't know if it's really cool or not. We've got this little cutout right there at the beginning of this swedge. What is that cutout about? If any of you know why that's there, and don't just give me your wild guesses, because I can guess too, it's a wire cutter. It's, but it's not, because it's too smooth everywhere. If anybody knows what that is, I'm really curious to know what it is as well. This jimping is nice and smooth. Everything is nicely beveled. The metal handle is slightly larger than the G10. Or you can say the G10 slightly smaller than the metal. So you can see the metal right there on that edge, and you can see it coming out here, and it's well-rounded on both sides, on all the edges, so it's beveled a bit. And we've got a little bit of a persuader coming out of the back here with that lanyard hole, or you might call it a crusher, if you're going to smack it into something to crush something. Certainly can be useful as a, if you're thinking about this knife as a survival knife and a self-defense knife, that can be a pretty good persuader right there, a non-lethal persuader, if you want to get somebody to do what you want. Then on the belly side of the handle, we've got some more jimping over here, and that's really helpful to get any kind of grip that you can imagine holding a knife with. That little bit of jimping right there on both sides is helpful for that. And we've got a first nice choil here, and then a choil for your index finger, a little bit of a belly, and then it comes back down with a negative curvature there again. And this big curvature on the spine really fits nicely in the palm of a hand that way. So it's a really, really comfortable knife to hold. Let's give you the dimensions of everything, and then we're going to talk about what we like and don't like about this knife. Cutting edge right here from that choil to the tip, 10.8 centimeters, 4¼ inches of cutting edge. Awesome. I like that. The blade thickness is 4 millimeters, 0.155 inches. The thickness of the steel behind the grind. And so that is, you see this final grind right here. So where the ball of this ballpoint pen is, I measured both sides, from this side to this side right there. 0.83 millimeters, which is 0.0235 inches. That's a little bit heavy, isn't it? From what I've been telling you guys, I've been saying an EDC knife, it's best if it's 0.5. Well, this, remember, I say the larger the knife is, the bigger that can be, up to a point, of course. So this is 4¼ inches, and it's 0.83 millimeters. It's a little thicker than I would like. I would like it to be maxing out at about 0.75, like 3/4 of a millimeter. So it's a little bit generous, a little bit thick and heavy, but it's not really bad at all. I'm not trying to complain and say this is a knife you should not consider because it's too heavy. No, it's just slightly heavier than I expect or desire, but it's still very functional. The handle thickness, 1.6 centimeters, which is 0.64 inches, just a little over half of an inch. The handle length, and I'm talking about just the G10, from the extreme there to the extreme point here, 12.2 centimeters, 4.8 inches. The grip area, so between the pen tip and my fingernail, 9.2 centimeters, 3.65 inches. So this knife is going to fit somebody with an extra large hand, although it fits a little bit better with a guy with a large hand. My hands are just at that point between large and extra large, between 9 and 10 in the European glove measuring system for males. The total length of the knife, and that's from the end of this persuader, so the tip of the end to the tip of the front, 22.1 centimeters, 8.75 inches. The weight of this knife is 222 grams, 7.8 ounces. Ho, ho, ho. And with the sheath combined, 294 grams, 10.4 ounces. Well, on the date that I'm recording this, the price for this at DHgate is $46.45. I paid $39.02 for it, and free shipping involved. You can get it at AliExpress, as I mentioned in the intro, and there it's selling for $43 US, which is 58.68 Canadian. So yes, this is not an inexpensive knife, but it's not expensive either. For a fixed blade like this to be, $43 US, under $50 US, it's not a bad deal. If this is what you're looking for, that is. For now, let's just talk about the rest of the likes and dislikes of this knife. One of the things I already mentioned, it's so cool. This color of G10 is just cool. The texture is, not very grippy, not extra grippy, I should say. It's fairly smooth, but with the shape of the handle and everything, you get a very sure grip in the hand without it needing to have an awful lot of texture. You've got torque screws everywhere, so you could change these handle scales out if you wanted to. Use these G10 scales as a template, maybe put on some wooden scales or micarta scales, whatever you want. You can do all kinds of nice things when they're screw-on scales like this. So that's cool. I like that this Kydex belt loop, that it's higher than a lot of knives. And if you've got your tech lock here, the knife's going to want to swing away from your pants all the time. And so having it higher up is much better. So I really like this. I don't necessarily love the fact that you're going to have to take your belt off in order to, weave it through this belt loop. But, you lose a little bit that way. But what you gain is having it work a little bit more like a dangle with a higher up belt loop. I like that an awful lot. And the rest of the Kydex for this is quite good. Makes very little noise when you shake it, because it's nice and snug in there. That's another really good thing about that sheath. It's got great feel in the hand. I already mentioned this nice arch here that I really appreciate an awful lot. It has a nice thickness up to this point on the knife right here, just after the swedge is ending. So about an inch from the tip, it's still 3.5 millimeters thick. So it hasn't been losing a lot of thickness going down the blade, so that gives it a lot of strength near the tip. That's a great thing. It's got a great lanyard option back here, and I like that it's got this tip here for a non-lethal persuader. Well, it could be lethal. You could really hurt somebody with that too, so it just doesn't have to be as lethal as a cutting edge. Really, really nice knife. What don't I like about it? See this dirt right here? You can just barely see it right in this area. The Kydex is rubbing off on the G10 right there on both sides. You see it on both sides there. So it gets a little dirty. Don't necessarily love that very much. If you chose the black handle scales, the black G10, you wouldn't notice that at all. It is a little thicker behind the grind than I like. I already talked about that. That's not really a huge con at all. That's a very small con, but it is a con. It's a negative that I don't really like that much. Back to the sheath, they didn't put a drain hole in the sheath. So if I'm wearing this and I happen to get caught in the rain and water gets in here, it's going to pool up in this area. It is stainless steel. That means stain resistant, not stain proof. So what I'm going to do is get a little drill, and I'm going to drill a tiny hole right at where the tip of the blade would sit. So it sits like this. So put a hole right there in the sheath. Use a brad point bit if you get one of these, or you ever want to drill into Kydex. Don't use a regular drill bit. It'll bite, and then you're going to go all the way through. Look up what a brad point bit looks like on Google if you need to know. And just put a hole right in the tip there, and that should be good to go for that purpose. So that's the pros and the cons, and there you go. There's the knife. I think it looks great. It feels great. Very comfortable in hand. And let's do a little bit of some cut tests inside, and then we'll go outside and do some more cut tests, and followed up by the summary at the very end. So let's just use some paper here and see how well it cuts. Look at that. You heard how nicely that cut. Using a push cut there. Really, really nicely sharpened from the factory. I like that an awful lot. Here's some of that 1-inch wide banding, and it's just going to slide through that, I am sure. Zips through that, no problem. Very nicely sharp. You want to see how well it deals with paracord? Okay, I'll show you how well it deals with paracord. I haven't tried these cut tests before. I'm just convinced that it's going to do very well because I know the edge somewhat well already. So there we go. Surprised me a bit. Just cut right through that, no problem. This is 7-strand 550 paracord. And you can cut through sliding. You can do chop cuts, no problem. So now let's go outside. I apologize for the wind. There's no real good way to avoid it, but you can see how well this doesn't print. There it is right there. And hugs to my body. That has a lot to do with how high this belt clip is on this sheath. You know, I can wear it and, you know, you can't see that I've got my knife on me. So let's take it out and let's do a little bit of batoning. And, you know, I'll just take a corner of this off. Works quite well. Take another corner off. Works quite well to prepare some wood that way. And let's see if we can do some feather stick making. There you go. Not bad at all. I will tell you that there's no sharp edges for lighting a fire to strike a ferro rod, unless you want to use the edge of this, the cutting edge. The exception is you could file a flat area on the pommel if you wanted to use this for a bushcrafting knife and use that to strike a ferro rod. It would work. But you can see feather stick making works as well. And I could do all kinds of other testing, you know, splitting wood or whatever, and having the metal come all the way through the full tangness. You can whack on the back of your blade and split through wood that way if you want to. You can do all kinds of things, whatever you want to do, you know, and just whittling wood if you want to. Works quite well to do just about whatever you want. Make a nice little notch. You know, you could be making a notch if you wanted to. This knife will be functioning for all kinds of tasks. This could make a decent bushcraft knife. Sorry about the wind and the vehicle noises. The only thing for the ferro rod is make yourself a sharp edge on the end of the handle here, and you know, or maybe back on, you know, one of the other edges somewhere. You could file it flat. You could file a spot flat up here if you want to. Whatever you want to do, and then you've got a pretty good knife for, you know, an all-purpose fixed blade that can do all kinds of great stuff. The more I do with this knife, the more I love it. Well, we've come back inside. What do you think of this knife? What are your feelings? Do you want to get one? If you could just save up enough shekels for this, that'd be great, wouldn't it? I really like this knife an awful lot. It's very comfortable. It fits very well. The sheath is more than adequate. And the price point makes this knife a good choice in my books. This is a knife that I highly recommend. If you're at all interested, go ahead and get one. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for commenting, sharing, subscribing. If you've got any questions, please put them in the comment section below. And remember, guys, always cut towards your chum, that is the other guy, and not your thumb.